Welcome to the present moment, the forefront of the past, and the cutting edge of the future. Please prepare your mind to download and install this very important update to the human body of consciousness, providing greater access to the true self within you. Today we bear witness to a time never before seen in history. The rapid increase of technological development has brought new levels of global interconnectedness to nearly all. It could be said that we are living in the most amazing period in recorded history, but even if that's true, most do not recognize it, living instead in a bubble of their own minds. The past and the future exist in a continuum, dynamically affecting each other through the lens of the present. While our material bodies only move forward in time, the particles and waves underlying the fabric of reality move non-linearly and can travel forwards or backwards in time. It is through the act of remembering our past and dreaming our future that we too move through past and future states within our consciousness. Many believe today that the past has very little bearing on who we are today, that old traditions, such as those of ancient religions, are no longer needed. But if we forsake where we came from, we will fail to learn the important lessons that history provides. Were one to look closely at the great cycles that humanity has evolved through, we would find a foundation upon which our very society today still upholds. In ancient Sumeria, the 24-hour clock was established, still used to this day, and through biblical times, fundamental laws and principles of righteousness were established which are still greatly honored in present society. The burning of oil to light a lamp led to the burning of oil for an engine, and cars are often measured in horsepower, a term derived from quite literally the amount of power one horse could provide. From the refinement of our understanding, new tools, systems, and ways of being are developed which shape who we become. But we walk a very fine line today. Through the very technology we've created and the way in which we orient ourselves in society, we find ourselves in traps of delusion which keep us focused on a limited set of criteria that we believe if we attain, we will find happiness. Yet such traps perpetuate an idea which roots deep within the psyche, festering misery and suffering that, if left unresolved, will cause each to miss the forest from the trees as far as the meaning of life is concerned. The challenge at its root is actually a very simple one. We must learn to reconcile duality against wholeness, which is performed by one's ability to reconcile paradox within. When one can reconcile paradox, they can overcome any duality which causes division and penetrate into the source field from which all things arise. It must be understood that at the fundamental levels of reality, all things exist in a dynamic, interconnected unity that breathes life into the multiplicity of creation. This unity has been called God or Spirit, an apt term considering spirit means animating principle, and therein scientifically speaks to this source as a place through which the material reality is animated, or through which life energy is breathed into that which lives. But how does a dynamic interconnected unity give rise to the multiplicity of creation that we find ourselves in today, where everything appears as separate and divisible? The answer is simple. It is through our very perception itself. Today, division reigns supreme. Families are divided amongst themselves. Countries are at war with each other, and other countries are at war with their own people. Where some oppress their people openly, others manipulate their people in secret. It is through our perception of disconnectedness which allows such distortions to permeate society. For if we truly perceived such unity, we would never seek to betray or take advantage of our brothers and sisters for our own gain, and we would certainly nurture and honor our planet and be responsible stewards of creation. Paradox is reconciled in our ability to hold multiple contradictory ideas in our minds at the same time and weigh them against the truth of our own conscience, unbiased by our own selfish desire to be right. When each of us do this, we realize that opposing ideas are often two ends of a polarizing spectrum and are not as far from each other as we think. It is only then that we can speak from truth, having compassion on others for their perspectives and not from the limitation of our own ego's ideal. And so, the goal must ultimately be to create a bridge between the awareness of the fundamental dynamic unity and the division that humanity finds itself in today. If we are to collectively find a place of peace among all people, we must be willing to ask and explore the meaning of truth with a capital T. Without a metric by which we might identify truth, each individual would be subject to describe truth by their own accord. But one subjective truth is another's lie. While some are willing to have respectful debates to the nature of what is authentically real, many are more inclined to bury themselves in their personal belief, creating an echo chamber of perspective rather than exploring ideas other than their own. Truth with a capital T must be understood as a concept, not a thing. The word itself comes from the etymological root deru, meaning be firm, solid, or steadfast, and from which we find the same root of words such as durable, duration, endure, shelter, tree, truce, and trust. It is also related to the Hindu concept of dharma, which is the upholding or eternal principles upon which all of reality is based. It can be said that truth with a capital T is a word which indicates that which is eternal, while all of the material and corporeal reality is finite and subject to change. In this way, truth may be likened in principle to the center of a wheel that is spinning, while the outside of the wheel represents corporeal reality or subjective truths, which are constantly rotating through their cycles. The center of the wheel does not move at all, but exists free of all motion, yet is the place from which the rotation of the wheel arises. In the same way, the eternal spirit underlying creation is unmoving, infinite, and eternal, and from it arises all of the changing material reality. In life, each person has their own subjective truth, their own perspective. A perspective is the filter through which each individual views reality and is afforded through the unique interplay of life experiences and interpretations. The attitudes and habits we form ultimately create the filter through which we view reality. What one considers true might not be true for someone else who sees life through a different lens. Where one prefers the left, another may prefer the right. Such perspectives are not absolute truths, but subjective to the individual who believes them. As humanity probes even deeper into the nature of reality, we are brought closer to capital T truth. For instance, the truth about the nature of electromagnetism was not discovered until the 1800s, but the laws of electromagnetism have certainly existed since the dawn of time, irrespective of our awareness of them. Yet, once this essential truth was grasped, it changed our experience of reality fundamentally and afforded new experiences of life. Without knowledge of electromagnetism, we wouldn't have computers, TVs, radios, and so on. Though certainly, when the idea was first proposed, it was laughed at by those who couldn't fathom the concept of an invisible field permeating reality. In the same way, emerging ideas about the nature of consciousness and how life is steered by thought and feeling are also mocked, but knowledge of our interconnected nature is becoming known, and one day the telepathic connections we share with each other will become commonplace throughout all of society. Alongside the development of technology, we must also adopt higher moral standards with greater responsibility towards each other and the life that we lead. As we discover and gain control over atomic forces, we must be willing to use them for harmonious means, in benefit and service to all, rather than our own selfish wants and desires, which is sure to lead to destruction. The higher path is the one which allows for an acknowledgement of both personal and subjective truths, but also yields to a greater truth as it arises, even if it is uncomfortable to humble oneself that we were previously wrong. We find the same understanding present in the time-honored spiritual traditions of the past, whether it be the teachings of Jesus Christ, of Krishna, of Buddha, or even the Tao, which all teach virtue, love, and compassion towards all. The deeper we go into understanding not just the science, but the intrinsic moral responsibility that comes with having such sciences, we reconcile the ancient historical spiritual doctrines with our modern view. But if we hate others and attack those or mock those with difference of opinions, we only perpetuate limited perspectives that keep humanity groping in the dark. If we choose instead to be guided well by good leadership and inform ourselves by appropriate social spiritual standards, humanity will learn to deal fairly with one another without the violence or hate in their hearts, and life on earth will become a fun reality for all, with less suffering and better systems for living together in peace. And so, in support of this endeavor, a question we might ask is this: what is reality? Etymologically, the word itself means actually existing, having physical existence, or not imaginary. It is interesting that this specifies not imaginary, for by that standard, are thoughts or beliefs considered to be real? Beliefs may be understood as synaptic pathways that are entrained within us that thoughts flow through consistently. But are such pathways real? When we think a thought or use our imagination, our mental synapses fire, and those electrical signals can be measured. But therein, is the firing real, but the thought itself unreal? Or, if they are real, where are they real? When we consider the dynamic unity in the substructure of reality, we might consider that thoughts and feelings are real, but exist in different dimensions or areas of our body of consciousness, some of which are more isolated within us, and others that permeate into the outward matrix which is shared by all. This then does not invalidate one's inner experiences, even if they are untrue or delusive by nature, but affords each individual with the opportunity to hold their ideals within themselves and reconcile it naturally against the outer perspectives that they have. Each and every person has a part to play in the great unfolding of the human story. But if we fail to play our part, we will continually perpetuate the great delusion of the world. But if we free ourselves of our personal delusions, we help the whole world to wake up all the more and realize just how amazing life really is. At the end of the day, the matrix of reality is one wherein each soul may perceive life in their own way. One can float through life following the same patterns they've always had, or may attempt to break free of the illusion, and that path is up to each to decide for themselves. Such illusions are perpetuated by mental, spiritual, and physical poisons, and these can be identified simply. Mental poison traps include belief systems about one's purpose and place in life, thinking that we must live out our days doing work that we don't like, with people we don't fully get along with, engaging in activities that are not fun for us, and so on. These are limiting beliefs about who we are and what our place in life is. Spiritual traps stem from the disconnection with our soul. Spirituality must be understood as union with the vitalizing essence through which our consciousness engages with mind and body, and that while many religions serve to support the union with that connection, the business of religion also often takes people away from their own innate connection with God, which may also be experienced as unity with the source field from which all things arise at the fundamental levels of reality. Physical traps include everything that keeps our focus and attention only on that which can be felt or known through the five senses, and often disconnect us from seeking any inner harmony beyond that. This includes heavily processed and refined foods which have no nutritional value, addictive substances such as sugar, caffeine, and alcohol, which keeps people in a perpetual state of mental fog, especially when overused, relying on the kick they provide to get people through their daily grind. Did you know that most coffee has mold in it? Very few people do. And that also is an inner poison, along with all of the pesticides and herbicides in almost all of the produce that we eat. The attachment to living out our days in the exact same way is also oriented around the necessities to survive: food, money, sex, and these such things. Important to be sure, yet if our reality is only oriented to these alone, we miss the opportunity to aim for and receive anything greater, such as knowledge and wisdom of the nature of the soul and the hidden mysteries of life itself. To become fully clear of the addiction to material reality is not an easy task, and so it is often easier for an individual to ignore the damage such thinking causes, and to simply float through their illusion as best as they can. Yet, one who is deeply engrossed in such addictions and cannot easily break free deserves not condemnation, but compassion. It is not their fault that they find themselves in such a state. The system they find themselves in was designed to be entrapping, and the act of breaking free is the moving of one's frame of reference from a state of individual focus and behaving responsibly and appropriately in relationship to that which is going on around oneself. To the old paradigm of thinking, there is always something going on, something that must be done, or somewhere we have to be. But where are we going? Where does it end? What is the purpose of the journey we're on? When we're on our last several breaths of life, will we look back, feeling completely fulfilled for the life that we experienced? Or will we be filled with regret, lamenting how much time we wasted? When we are able to see ourselves for what we are, humanity is recognized as a delicate creature, multifaceted with brilliance and suffering all at the same time. It is okay that we are this way, for it is through our duality that we can recognize the unity at greater depth, and the miracle of doing so is far more meaningful than it otherwise would be if we didn't know such a depth of pain. While so many feel alone and uncertain about themselves and their place in the world, others are running as fast as they can towards the goal of their imagined future. And while some are imbued with purpose of heart, others are blinded by the illusion of their wants, thinking them to be needs. And from a state of attachments, there today has grown so much mistrust between family and community, between the leadership and the led. It doesn't have to be this way, and it won't always. Humanity cannot help but to awaken to the truth of its nature, even if it takes a long time. It has been said, life is but a dream. When one knows that they're dreaming, we can each dream a life worth living. As a game is entertainment to us, life is a game to spirit. But it's not as though this game doesn't have an ending, or a moral to the story, or a supreme goal that we may all strive for. In order to get what we need in life, we have to be honest with ourselves and those closest to us. Those who need rest should take the time they need to rest, and those who are passionate and motivated to work should work. Those who are toxic should aim to be purified, and those who are pure can set an example for the rest. We find our place and purpose in life when we slow down and become still. Slowing down affords awareness of the multidimensional energetic reality matrix that we exist within, and even affords a passageway out into that which exists beyond what we can see and touch. while this cosmic essence of spirit underlies all things, our body of consciousness is built on layers upon layers upon layers of personality, societal structures, ego programming, habits, and dogmas. When it is understood who we truly are, we realize we can do anything. Human beings are genuinely limitless, and we are imbued from within by the same limitless source from which all arises. A peaceful state of being begets a peaceful reality. An active state of mind produces an active reality. An adventurous consciousness produces an adventurous reality. We must ask ourselves, what do we want most? Oftentimes, we don't know what we want until we lose it, and doing so teaches us how to cherish that which we have. Yet at the end of the day, everything we have in life is temporary. We come here with nothing and leave it all behind when we go. And so all things in the material world are afforded as things to be used and enjoyed for a time, but not to be taken with us. It is the same as when playing a video game. The character we play as uses items along the way, but when we put the game down, those items remain in the virtual world. It is the little things that matter the most. Acts of kindness, showing up for one's brothers and sisters, living out the higher will of that which is alive within us to do. Let us not be NPCs of the Matrix, non-player characters, but awakened characters playing in the game of life, that may a new door be opened and a higher pathway be walked. May we set our sights on something greater, that which is enduring and lasts eternally, that which is true. The heavy serves as the root of the light. If we want a light-hearted and joyous reality, we must honor that which exists deep in the roots and foundations of society and even reality itself, and within our own being. The time is coming when each of us will have to make a choice. Choose truth. Choose love. Choose to embrace the mystery of life, and do not turn away from the awakening journey. Thank you so much for watching this video. Everything that you just saw really reflects a great deal of internal transformation and changes that have taken place over the last few years, as I found myself going within and really becoming reoriented to a new understanding of reality, and in doing so creating a new trajectory as to where it is that spirit science is even going at all. When spirit science first started out, it was kind of like this exploratory ship. You know, I had created a little boat with a light on it and set off into the wilderness, just exploring ideas and making videos about the things that I was interested in learning. Along that journey, many people saw that light on that boat and came on board, and spirit science transformed from being a little boat to a really big ship. And that comes with a lot of responsibility when so many people are looking to you for guidance and understanding about the nature of reality. It was very overwhelming at times. I would get so many emails of people asking me for spiritual advice or asking me to interpret their dreams for them. And I definitely didn't feel like I was qualified or the right person to be able to answer those kinds of questions. And so I did my best over the last 12 years of making spirit science, trying to come to understand what even is spirit science. Can one measure the infinite spirit from which everything comes? And is there a way that we can scientifically deduce a pure understanding, a perfect understanding of how everything works? And spirit science therein is not just about understanding dimensions or chakras or things of this nature, but the science of self-mastery, the science of meditation and prayer, and how to go within and navigate these internal realms and transcend all of the limits of the human body and the attachments that come with being in a material, corporeal form. After all, as many people like to say, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And so spirit science is transforming in a really beautiful way. We've got so much planned, and The last few years has been a bit of a hiatus as we went through some big challenges personally and professionally that led to it being very difficult to make a lot of content. But that doesn't change the fact that we never stopped caring and never stopped wanting to be in service to humanity in the greatest possible way. And so for all of this, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your patience and your support throughout all of the years. I don't know that this work would have continued without your support. And even sometimes just words of encouragement has really gone a long way. And so with all of that, I'd like to also extend a special invitation. The last few years, inside of our community network, once called Spirit Mysteries, now called Spirit Verse, and which will soon transform into the Spirit Science Academy, we have been doing our best to host and facilitate workshops and create a personal place where everyone could come and share on their spiritual journey together, free of judgment or dogma, but openly explore that which their soul calls most for them to learn. And once more, we are opening the doors to the Spiritverse and invite anyone who wants to come and participate in weekly accountability circles, meditations, or wisdom workshops, and I do so very much hope to see you there. Humanity is amazing, and most people are not aware of just how special and powerful they truly are. And so thank you again for staying tuned all these years, or if you're a new subscriber, welcome. And I do hope to see you in the next video and in our Spiritverse community.